of immanent experience. And of course, many socio-political utopians shared that Gnostic derision for cognitio fidei, for the cognition of faith. For instance, Karl Marx called religion the opiate of the masses, yet Karl Marx himself transplanted many of the transcendent metaphysical concepts from the traditional theistic faiths, the Abrahamic faiths, that he so derided within the ontological plane of the physical universe. For instance, Marx's eschaton was the apocalypse of the dialectical struggle between bourgeoisie and proletariat. Thus, communism could be characterized as a neo-Gnostic jihadist crusade. The result was a stridently secular movement that sociologically behaved like religions. Now, the neoconservatives, and of course the neoconservative dominated Bush regime, which was promoting the TIA program and the Information Awareness Office, hail from this neo-Gnostic heritage. Irving Kristol, the godfather of neoconservatism, candidly admitted that he was a young Trotskyist. James Burnham and Max Shachtman, two ideologues that shaped neoconservative thought, hailed from the Trotskyist tradition as well. The neoconservative concept of a global democratic revolution, it merely reiterates the Trotskyist Fourth International's vision of permanent revolution. And the neoconservative revolution, it basically involves the global exportation of democratism through either diplomacy or force. And democratism is basically plebiscitary or majoritarian democracy, which Lenin, B.I. Lenin, correctly asserted was indispensable to socialism. Now, neoconservatives, they follow they basically strive to realize the secular Gnostic vision of an earthly city of social democracy, and in so doing, they exalt democracy as humanity's messiah. Within the neoconservatives' neo-Gnostic psyche, God is incarnated as the political institution of social democracy. And because social democracy is a human invention, this Messiah is incarnated through the work of human hands. So we have the ongoing global democratic revolution, which is actually the latest neo-Gnostic crusade to immanentize the eschaton, to bring the eschaton into the firm grasp of the mind and into human history itself. And along with God and the eschaton, neoconservatives have also transplanted another metaphysical entity from the scriptures within the ontological plane of the physical universe, and that is the devil. The devil has been reconceptualized by neoconservatives as a purely immanent force, as being purely immanent. And within the neoconservative mind, the devil is the Muslim. Why? Because the Arab world resists the divinely ordained order of social democracy. Thus, we have the neoconservative-dominated administration's continual agitation of Islamic nations. And
Indeed.
Iran is the latest case in point.
Yeah. Definitely. Very fascinating stuff. I mean, again, a number of, things to pick up on here, but worth noticing and might, in a sense, go over again is the overarching theme then of the the all-seeing eye, because this is something then that runs throughout, not only the symbolism, but the phrasing, the mottos, and even as you say, the even the building of prisons and stuff like this. Do you guys over there in the States have prisons that are do you know of any that actually are formed like these? No.
Well, we have we have here in the United States a burgeoning prison system.
Yeah.
So much so we have the largest population of captives on the face of the planet. And another thing is that a lot of this panopticism might begin to resurface in some of the prisons if they're not already there. I've spoken to people that have been in prison and basically that got a hold of my work either and read a magazine article that I had written or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
Decided to write me, and they certainly weren't enjoying the experience, and it suggested that there was probably some kind of mild form of panopticism there, but that the severity is going to increase probably because prisons over here are becoming privatized. Exactly.
Yeah.
We have Whack and HUD. We have Corrections Incorporated. We have these kind of groups that actually trade their stock on Wall Street based on how many people they're housing in their facilities.
Yeah.
And what we had after the 2001 election, 2000 election rather, was a totally eviscerated federal government. In other words, a federal government that was not willing to stand up to multinational corporations and to these different private interests that like to treat the government as their own little prostitute and their own little toy and their enforcement arm. And most people don't realize, but the multinational corporations are the locus of power for the power elite. And because the government is laying off of these corporations, and in particular the private prison industry, we are probably going to see panopticism become even more severe in the prisons. Yes, and we also see it with private security firms,
Indeed,
which basically act more so like private mercenary soldiers of fortune. And it's already pervasive. It's being ushered in under the pretext of basically fighting terrorism, the war on terrorism, which has some overtly neo-Gnostic themes to it, being that it's all premised on a very Manichaean worldview, and by Manichaeanism I'm referring to a particular variety of Gnosticism that blended together Zoroastrianism with some extremely distorted Christian concepts, some Christian concepts that were extremely distorted, to create this ultra-dualistic worldview that basically separated the morally complex human condition into a condition of overly simplistic, dualistic condition of light and darkness. And unfortunately for the Arab world, they are finding themselves on the dark end of that spectrum, and so the forces of light are now basically working to eradicate them. But basically, this neo-Gnostic jihadist crusade here at home, just as the neo-Gnostic crusade of the Enlightenment, which was working to develop an early scientific dictatorship, an early technocracy, just as it worked to erect a penal system that would basically keep prisoners in line and could also, given its polyvalence, be applied to the overall social body itself. Just as the Enlightenment strove to do that, that's what the neo-Gnostic jihadists of neoconservatism are trying to do. They're erecting an emanatist garrison state, as we call it, in order to make sure that their neo-Gnostic objective of immobilizing history within a state of utopian permanence is successful. They have to make sure that there is no dissent. And so in order to squelch dissent, they basically, in the name of fighting terrorism, have basically erected are in the process of erecting a system of panoptic control.
I mean, do you think that these guys believe then that this is a necessary? I mean, we're back to the Hegelian dialectics in that sense, using these two forces to forward a goal or to achieve the what you want to do or where you kind of want to lead the society or whatever. And now we're seeing this, as you say, on a more global level as this is going in, and with that we are approaching this very heightened or increased surveillance grid going in with that, as with the technology, as you guys say, with the cameras. Would you guys tie in other types of surveillance under this umbrella, kind of like let's say the creation of a global database of people's DNA, stuff like this?
Well, that's definitely what we see things moving towards, and that initiative has been on the table and has been circulating around in elite circles for years now, for decades. I think, though, that Promise Software, when it was stolen from the Hamiltons by Ed Meese, and then sold to several different intelligence agencies all over the world.
Are you talking about the Human Genome Project now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that fits in. That fits in as well. Where you can basically catalog people by simply looking at DNA.
Mm.
I think, though, that the goal is to basically really move beyond technology, because, like Phil said at the beginning, the psychological impact is what's important.
Yeah.
If you can begin to impress upon people the need to police themselves by just having all these different forms of surveillance begin to pop up, then eventually you won't even need those high tech forms of surveillance. People will naturally do it themselves.
Yeah, basically the goal is the internalization of the rules and regulations. It's much like some zoo animals, like some gorillas that have been in captivity for quite some time. Their captivity has been so prolonged, and they've been so conditioned to to their conditions and circumstances of being in a cage that some gorillas won't even bother getting out of the cage if you open the door. The reason being is because on a deeper psychological level, the gorilla has internalized the rules and regulations. And although freedom might be just beyond the gates and just beyond the walls of the zoo, some gorillas no longer even proceed beyond that point. That's the same essential principle behind panopticism. Is for instance, some business establishments that have cameras. Some of those cameras don't even have film in them. I've worked retail mediocrity for a good portion of my life, and at one department store that I worked at, they had black domes that were supposed to contain cameras. Well, one day, one of those black domes in the ceiling fell open, and a maintenance man went to fix it, and I looked into it, and I was so like, "Where's the camera?" And he says, "Oh, there is no camera in some of these. There's only a camera strategically placed in some of these black domes.
Indeed,
the rest of them are just positioned there to give people the impression of being watched." I had a similar experience too, working the service sector in a department store that is rather quite popular chain here in the United States, where the store was literally ringed with black domes all over the ceiling, and but then you would go into the back room where the store security was, and you would see a small little room with one television screen. And exactly. And so I basically got to the point where I was like, this doesn't add up. And an older gentleman, about 73 years old at the time, that I worked with, that had been around the barn more than once, basically said, well, look, you can't possibly think that they'd have cameras in every single dome, because it's every